The bike lock hadn't been cut. It had been dismantled, each component laid out in perfect alignment on the pavement beside Marcus's now missing bicycle. The precision of it was somehow more terrifying than if it had been smashed to pieces. "This is insane," Marcus muttered, scanning the street for CCTV cameras. He's Jason Statham, not an actual criminal mastermind. His phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. * Holland Park, West Entrance. 30 minutes? Come alone. *. Against all better judgment, and Tom's frantic warnings, Marcus found himself approaching the park entrance exactly 30 minutes later. His heart hammered against his ribs as he spotted a familiar bald figure on a bench, one bulldog on either side of him, his bike propped casually against a tree. "Mr. Statham," Marcus began, his carefully rehearsed apology dying on his lips as the actor raised a hand to silence him. "Let me stop you right there," Statham said, his voice that unmistakable gravel-tinged rumble that had commanded cinema screens worldwide. "Do you know what these two were before they were mine?" Marcus shook his head. "Baiting dogs. Used to train fighting dogs. Kept in cages. Traumatized daily." Statham scratched behind one dog's ear, its eyes closing in contentment. "Took me 8 months to get them comfortable around strangers. 4 more to stop them cowering at sudden movements." He stood, and Marcus instinctively stepped back. Up close, the action star's presence was even more imposing than on screen. "Then some privileged wanker on a bike decides to terrorize them for sport," Statham continued, moving toward Marcus with fluid grace. "So tell me, what should I do about that?" Marcus braced himself. Certainly he was about to become the recipient of one of Statham's famous roundhouse kicks. Instead, Statham tossed in a set of keys. "Your bike's there, undamaged. Unlike my dog's progress." He fixed Marcus with a penetrating stare. "I could make your life very difficult, but that's not who I am. Instead, I'm going to give you a chance to show me who you are." The grand opening of the East London Animal Rehabilitation Centre drew a surprising crowd for a Tuesday afternoon. Local press mingled with celebrities and animal rights activists, all gathered to celebrate the new facility specializing in recovery therapy for abused animals. In the center of it all stood an unlikely duo, Jason Statham in a tailored charcoal suit, and beside him, Marcus Davies in similar attire, explaining the center's financial structure to potential donors. "The investment banker who became the financial director of our foundation has a personal connection to our cause," Statham explained to an interviewer, clapping Marcus on the shoulder with genuine camaraderie. "He experienced a rather dramatic conversion, didn't you, mate?" Marcus smiled, remembering the 6 months of community service at Statham's chosen animal shelter, service that had evolved into genuine passion and eventually a career change that shocked London's financial district. "Sometimes you need someone to hold up a mirror," Marcus replied, "or steal your bike." Statham laughed, a sound that still occasionally sent shivers down Marcus's spine, despite their growing friendship. Later, as the event wound down, the two men watched their unlikely success. Statham's bulldogs now serving as therapy dogs, confidently approaching strangers with gentle curiosity. "Still miss that corner office?" Statham asked, observing Marcus's face. Marcus watched as a young girl with burn scars giggled when one of the bulldogs licked her hand, the first time she'd smiled in months, according to her parents. "Not even a little," he answered truthfully, "though I do miss that bike sometimes." Statham's expression remained neutral, but his eyes crinkled slightly at the corners. "Funny you should mention that. There's a charity ride next month, celebrities and sponsors." He handed Marcus an envelope. "Thought you might want to lead the pack." Inside was a professional cycling jersey with Marcus's name and the Rehabilitation Center's logo emblazoned across it. "Second chances are rare," Statham said quietly. "Looks like we all got one." As Marcus slipped the jersey on for a photo, he marveled at how one moment of arrogance had cascaded into a complete reinvention of his life. All because he'd messed with the wrong dogs on the wrong morning. It was a crisp autumn morning in London's Primrose Hill when Marcus Davies cut through the morning fog on his 12,000 pounds carbon fiber mountain bike. The investment banker's breath formed small clouds as he powered through the empty paths, his custom Strava route tracking what he hoped would be a personal best time. The expensive bike beneath him, a recent splurge after landing a major client, hummed against the pavement as he leaned into each turn. Marcus thrived on these solitary morning rides. At 34, he'd clawed his way to senior vice president at Harrington Capital through the same single-minded determination. He now applied to his cycling regimen: identify the goal, eliminate distractions, dominate. His colleagues called him the shark behind his back, a nickname he secretly relished. The bike, with its matte black frame and electric blue trim, had cost more than his first car, but the way it responded to his commands made it worth every penny. He rounded the north side of the park, picking up speed on the gentle decline. His phone buzzed in his pocket, like the New York office with questions about yesterday's acquisition, but he ignored it. Nothing would interrupt his flow state this morning. He had precisely 47 minutes before he needed to shower and transform into the ruthlessly efficient banker his clients expected. His concentration broke when he spotted movement ahead: two French bulldogs, stocky and playful, darting across what he considered his asterisk training path. Their muscular owner stood several yards away, back turned, deep in conversation on his phone. The man's body language suggested the call was important. His stance was rigid, his free hand gesturing emphatically. For God's sake, Marcus muttered under his breath. The park rules clearly stated dogs should be leashed before 9 a.m. He'd specifically chosen this hour to avoid precisely this kind of disruption. The larger of the two bulldogs, a brindle with a white chest, turned toward Marcus, ears perked with curiosity rather than alarm. Its companion, a smaller fawn-colored dog, was occupied with a tennis ball. Neither seemed concerned about the approaching cyclist, which only fueled Marcus's indignation. Without slowing, he aimed his front wheel deliberately toward the dogs, swerving at the last possible second and missing them by inches. The bulldogs yelped in terror, scrambling over each other as they fled toward their owner. Marcus felt a flash of satisfaction as the tennis ball was abandoned, rolling into the dewy grass. "Control your mutts or put them on a leash," Marcus shouted, the adrenaline of his near miss making him bold. "This isn't a bloody dog park." He glanced over his shoulder, expecting to see an apologetic owner scrambling to collect his pets. Instead, he caught a glimpse of the man's profile as he slowly turned: a chiseled jawline, intense eyes, and the unmistakable absence of hair that triggered a faint bell of recognition in Marcus's mind. But he was moving too fast to place the familiar face, and the thought vanished as quickly as it had formed. He was already 50 yards away when he felt it, the weight of someone's gaze drilling into his back. Something about the sudden silence behind him made the hair on his neck stand up. The owner had stopped talking mid-sentence and turned to observe Marcus with an unnervingly steady focus. Marcus shook off the sensation and accelerated, focusing on the path ahead. He had a meeting with Japanese investors at 10, and a new personal record to set. Whatever vague discomfort he felt would be forgotten by the time he reached the office. Or so he thought. "You did way hate," Tom hissed, nearly upending their table at the Ivy Chelsea garden where they'd met for lunch. Several heads turned their way, including a table of women who had been eyeing them appreciatively moments before. Marcus shrugged, still riding the high of his morning confrontation. Some inconsiderate bloke letting his dogs run wild. Taught him a lesson about. Was he about 6 feet, bald, looked like he could snap you like a twig? Tom interrupted, thrusting his phone into Marcus's face. The Instagram post showed Jason Statham in Primrose Hill that very morning, his caption reading, "Morning calls with the studio while these two troublemakers get their energy out. #Primrose Hill #morning routine *." The photo showed the exact spot where Marcus had his encounter, the same two French bulldogs clearly visible. "Oh God," Marcus whispered, his eggs Benedict suddenly unappetizing. "I think I just made an enemy of the man who killed a shark with his bare hands in a movie." "That was fiction," Tom corrected, "but the fact that he does most of his own stunts and trained with the British national diving team isn't. Neither is his background in kickboxing." A waiter approached their table. "Pardon me, gentlemen. Are you Marcus Davies?" Marcus nodded cautiously. "There's a message for you." The waiter handed him a folded note. With trembling fingers, Marcus opened it to find just 7 words written in a forceful hand. Asterisk, nice bike. Hope nothing happens to it. Asterisk.